Imagine like having a simulator for your business,
Yeah.
right? You could just test things out, see what works, what totally backfires, all without, actually risking anything in the real world.
Yeah.
That's got to be the hope with these digital twins, and that's a pretty amazing like frontier, right?
Yeah, it is. We've gone like leaps and bounds from those like static models to these data representations, digital shadows, they call them.
Okay.
But that final, like that digital twin, it's got to be dynamic, updating all the time, like real time, even able to impact the real systems directly.
Okay, unpack that a little bit. So we've got the digital shadows. That sounds like more of a snapshot. Then we've got the, like you said, the superpowered digital twins. What's the missing link?
That's where this object-centric process mining comes in. That's like the key to unlocking these like truly dynamic and interconnected digital twins.
So we're talking process mining, but with a twist.
Mm-hmm.
For people who are new to this, how would you explain process mining and what it's all about?
Okay, so imagine if you could just put like a time-lapse camera on all your business processes, right?
Okay,
Process mining is like hitting play on that recording.
I like it.
You're taking event data from your systems, and it shows you how processes actually work, not just how we think they work, like in our heads.
So less relying on someone's gut feeling and more on the actual data trail.
Exactly.
I like it. But where does this object-centric part come into play, and why is it such a big deal?
So traditional process mining kind of has a blind spot. It usually focuses on a single case as like the central thing it's looking at.
Okay.
So let's say you're looking at a supply chain, right? You might only track the order itself as it moves through.
Like following a package on a delivery app,
Yeah.
right? Like you see its journey, but not like all the stuff that's going on like behind the scenes to actually make it happen.
Exactly. With traditional process mining, you miss like the suppliers, individual items, the shipments themselves, manufacturing, like if something slows down, even the weather.
Huh.
Each of those is an object that has its own impact.
So it's like trying to understand a whole ecosystem, but you're only studying one species. You're missing all that interaction.
Exactly. And that's where object-centric process mining, OCPM, comes in.
Okay.
Instead of just following that one thread, it connects events to all the related objects.
Can you give us a real-world example? What does that actually look like in action?
Absolutely. There's some really interesting research from Celonis. They do this, and they analyzed a hiring process using their software. It's called Celonis Process Sphere, and it uses this OCPM approach.
Okay.
So instead of just looking at how long it takes to fill a job, right,
Yeah.
they connected every event to every object involved.
Okay, so we're talking the applicants, the applications themselves, job offers that go out, the actual vacancies, and then like even the people, the recruiters, the hiring managers, like the whole 9 yards.
The whole thing. And it gives you a way, way better picture of what's really going on. You might find that delays aren't because there's no good candidates, but like bottlenecks in the interview process itself.
That's huge. It's one thing to know there's a problem, but this is like understanding the why behind it. And that's where those aha moments happen.
Exactly.
Like, oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah, and this can totally change how you approach process improvement.
Right.
And, for everybody listening, think about it. What areas in your business could benefit from this, like, granular, interconnected view?
All right, you got me hooked. But I got to ask, how do we go from, like, mapping all these objects and how they're connected to actually building a working digital twin?
Yeah.
That just sounds unbelievably complex.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. It's like we've gone from like a simple connect the dots to like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle.
Right.
Where the pieces keep like shifting around. How do you even begin to build a simulation that can handle that kind of detail?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, right?
And it's exactly why these like truly dynamic object-centric digital twins are still kind of like a work in progress, right? Even something as like seemingly simple as simulating new objects arriving in the system, it's more complex in this object-centric way of looking at things.
So we're not just talking about like plugging in some numbers and letting the computer like do its thing.
It's not quite that simple.
Okay.
Think about it like an order fulfillment process, right?
Okay.
You might have a system that simulates, orders coming in, inventory levels changing.
Right.
But with the object-centric model, you're not dealing with like these abstract orders and inventory. You're dealing with actual products, each with like their own like little quirks, lead times, how much space they take up, all of that.
So it's like the difference between like simulating traffic as just a flow of cars
Yes.
versus like every car is different speed limits, you got traffic lights changing, like suddenly it gets really, really complex.
Exactly. And the closer we can get to capturing those little details, those interdependencies
Right.
in the simulation, the more powerful these digital twins become.
Okay.
Then you're talking about being able to like test what happens when a shipment's late from a specific supplier.
Wow.
Or how a change in like what customers want, for a certain product, how that impacts your whole supply chain.
That's pretty incredible. But it also sounds like we're talking about like massive amounts of data, processing power. Like, is that even realistic for most businesses right now?
Yeah. It's definitely still developing, but the potential is huge. And even if we're not all building our like super, super realistic business simulators yet,
Right.
the ideas behind OCPM, they offer some really good lessons we can use right now.
So even without like going all in on the whole digital twin thing,
Yeah.
just this way of thinking, like this object-centric approach can be helpful on its own.
Totally. This shift, from focusing on individual cases to understanding how it's all connected, it's a big deal. Take that procurement delay you mentioned before.
Yeah.
An object-centric view might show that it's actually connected to higher shipping costs later on, because you're having to rush smaller shipments more often.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You'd never spot that connection without looking at the bigger picture. Like can't see the forest for the trees kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of OCPM. It helps you zoom out, see the whole forest, all the connections in it, the ways things depend on each other. You can ask better questions, make better decisions.
So how do we actually start thinking in this more, holistic, this object-centric way? Is it about like new software, hiring data scientists, or what?
Those can definitely help. But the most important thing is being curious, asking why more often, not just focusing on the immediate problem, but looking at the whole system.
So instead of just fixing a symptom, we should be looking for the root cause, which might be like hiding somewhere else in the system completely.
Exactly. It's about understanding that everything is connected, and even small changes can have huge effects, good or bad.
This whole interconnectedness thing, it makes me think about another area where we're seeing a lot of buzz, autonomous systems.
Right.
Is there a link between like OCPM and this push for more automation in business?
That's a good point. And yeah, there's definitely a connection. Think about self-driving cars for a second. We talk about them in terms of like levels of autonomy.
Right, like some basic driver assistance stuff all the way up to fully self-driving.
Exactly.
Okay.
And to get to those higher levels, you need data.
Right.
The more the system knows about its environment, how everything interacts, the better it can make decisions, handle complex situations. OCPM, with its focus on understanding those object relationships, it's a big step in that direction.
So we're not just talking about automating like tasks here. We're talking about automating whole processes, maybe even whole businesses eventually.
Yeah, that's the long-term vision. We're not there yet, but it's exciting to see the progress. But even before we get there are real benefits to thinking in this object-centric way. And for everyone listening, that means
like we can start making better decisions right now, even if we're not building like those self-running businesses just yet.
right.
This object-centric thinking's got to have some use cases today.
For sure. Let's say you want to improve like customer support wait times, right?
Okay.
Instead of just looking at how many people you've got on the support team, think about all the things that actually cause those wait times, right?
Yeah.
Product issues, making calls spike, problems on the website, maybe a competitor is having a meltdown and it's driving traffic your way. All those are like interconnected objects impacting your support.
So instead of just like throwing more people at it, you might realize, hey, if we fix the product quality, if the website just worked better,
exactly.
that's the actual solution.
It's about seeing those links, those upstream, downstream impacts that aren't always obvious. Maybe better product testing means fewer support calls overall.
Right.
Or like fixing your website navigation does more for wait times than hiring another person.
It's like, what's that saying? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's like a little object-centric thinking saves you a whole bunch of reactive, like, oh no, gotta fix this moments.
I like that. And that's what's so cool about this whole thing. We're going from like siloed thinking, those Band-Aid fixes, to actually understanding how it's all connected.
Yeah.
Proactive, It's about seeing the whole system, not just the symptoms.
And I think as we kind of wrap up our deep dive today, that's a perfect thing for everyone to kind of think about.
Definitely.
If every little thing that happens in your business, a customer order, maintenance request, it all involves multiple things working together, what connections are you missing?
Yeah.
What ways to improve are hiding in plain sight?
This question worth asking, because in
Think
a
back.
world that's only getting more complex, more interconnected, being able to see the whole system, not just the individual pieces, that's going to be the real advantage.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So until next time, everyone, stay curious, keep those questions coming, and start connecting those dots.